Licensing reimagined.
Long time coming, black on the bottom of my feet from running. Cataracts under my eyes from hustling. Going from buying to selling to customers. Run up the business, God is my witness. Turn up the sun up from under the sun that we maxing our limits. My mind running like Tom Cruise on an action movie. Moving a mission, they say that I'm tripping. I've been told I need a vacation, I'm finessing a visit.
Ooh, what is up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the Numbers. This is my 2025 betting recap. Going to be talking through my best bets, my worst bets, and my bad beats. And yeah, it's pretty cool going through, looking at the year and finding my best bets, worst bets, and bad beats. I have 10 best bets, I have 10 worst bets, and I have 10 bad beats. And then we're also going to hear from the chat. We're going to hear some of your best bets. We're going to hear some of your worst bets. And we're going to hear some of your bad beats as well. So looking forward to it here on a Monday. And then we got Monday Night Football going on, the 49ers versus the Colts. And for me, I had 3 leagues this year. And I finished first place in the regular season of 2 of those 3 leagues. And ended up going 1-1 this week, and I have one team in the championship for next week. So hopefully I can at least get one championship this year because I drafted 3 really good teams, I thought. So, but yeah, nothing for me tonight. I already sealed the win. I have George Kittle going right now. He already has like 25 points that I really didn't need. I could actually have sat Kittle and still won by like 40. So yeah, so pretty happy with how fantasy played out this week. But yeah, I guess the schedule for this week is we got Christmas, we got Christmas Eve, so it's gonna be a busy week. But I'm planning on doing a futures video sometime this week, and then I'm planning on doing maybe a Volkanovski, Diego Lopez breakdown, and then a Benoit Saint Denis, Dan Hooker breakdown. So I'm planning on getting like 4 videos out this week. Last week I did an early look at 2026. I did an early look at some of the UFC 324 matchups, the Kayla Harrison Nunez fight, and then also the main event for the 324, the Paddy Pimblett Gaethje fight. So yeah, like I said, I'm not really taking a break. Going to be doing a lot of content over the next 6 weeks. And tonight we're doing the 2025 recap, which I think should be a fun show, but I'm especially looking forward to next week, which is going to be the 2025 award show. Uncle Weezy will be joining me, and we have some fun awards to give out next week. But what is up, everybody in the chat? If you guys are watching live or on the replay, do appreciate you guys hanging out. Hopefully you guys are having a solid break. I was kind of feeling it like that Monday after the fights. It's like, dang, I already miss UFC. We still got a long way to go, but hopefully, some of this content helps the time go by. We got Daniel Forrest, first one in the building. Brother Brady back in our lives as a ray of sunshine in these dark, dark times of no live UFC. Yes, very, very dark, dark times. We got to make the best of it. My best bet of 2025, I put $10 on an 8-leg parlay on the UFC Fight Night card, and it hit Kopp, Vallejos, Olazechuk, Costa, Britu, Asplund, Jamie Lynn Horth, and King Green. Yeah, great bet. That probably paid very well. 8-leg parlays are hard to hit. 2-leg parlays are like hard to hit. Parlays are cursed for me, at least. We got Grand Prix. What is up? Another phenomenal bet in 2025 was plus 170 Manuel Torres to get the first round KO. I'll be touching on that fight during the recap. Absolutely. We got Jake C in the building. Thank you for saving me from football. Yeah, I mean, it's actually a good game tonight. Pretty solid game tonight, and a lot of fantasy. We got Jonathan Taylor going, McCaffrey going, Kittle going, stuff like that. But I'm not really too interested in it because I don't have anything going on in the game. Yeah, same. Just not too interested. And then we got Muhammad. What is up? Merry Xmas to you and yours from Fam Brady. You as well. Good to see you in here. Hopefully you're doing good, my guy. We got Speed of Thought. I actually won a fluke 10-leg parlay not that long ago. One bet, Jays. $1 bet got $300. That's insane. That's an insane payout. And then we got Haymaker. Casino been killing me. Yeah, the casino's tough, man. Casino is it's tough. It's fun. It's fun, but it's tough. So, all right, what we're gonna do first, I got 10 best bets of 2025. I got 10 worst bets of 2025, and I got 10 bad beats for 2025. So 30 bets total that I'm gonna recap tonight, and it should be a fun show. Maybe get a rant or two going on. I didn't have many rants this year for 2025. Typically I'll have like a big rant, like the Nate Maness rant when he fought Jimmy Flick. I guess the closest I got to a rant this year was maybe the Bulgarian fight or the Kyle Nelson Matt Favola fight, but not a ton of rants this year. So maybe I can get some tonight. But we'll start with the worst bets. Let's get the worst out of the way. And what I'll do on YouTube, I'm going to, let's see here, do a Q&A. Let me know, guys, in the comments, what is your worst bet? Or you can give me a couple. What is your worst bet of 2025? Okay. There we go. Let me know. Let me know what your worst bet is for 2025. And it's funny you say that because I was thinking the same thing. I'm sorry. I didn't have time to get graphics. I did not have time to get graphics. But no, it is not the Epstein files. It is not. It is not. Absolutely not. But yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Gene Silva decision for 2026. He's facing Arnold Allen. Yeah, I'm liking Gene Silva there. I'll be breaking down that fight maybe early next week. But all right. So let me know in the comments your worst bets. We will get started. The first worst bet of the year that I'm going to talk about, Ryan Loder plus 145 versus Ismail Nardiev. And it's actually funny. I was writing down my worst bets of the year, and like over half of these worst bets come from a card that took place in the Middle East. I don't know what's going on with these Middle Eastern cards. I don't know what's up with them, but they absolutely destroyed me this year. Like, you look at my record, and it's like when I'm having a losing night, 75% of the time it's a Middle Eastern card. So I'm gonna take note of that into 2026. And if it's a Middle Eastern card, I'm probably not going to go too heavy. If maybe just fade it as a whole, because I don't know what's up with middle. I don't know if it's the time change or what's going on in the Middle East, but we've seen some weird results. And yeah, I had a bet on Ryan Loder here. I thought he could wrestle, get the fight down to the mat. I thought he had a big cardio advantage, a big heart advantage. Thought he had maybe a durability advantage as well. And then I'm watching the fight, and it's early in the morning. And I'm watching the fight, and one of the announcers from the broadcast team, they're like, yeah, Ryan Loder went out to Thailand. And as soon as they said that, I'm like, okay, it's a wrap. Ryan Loder went out to Thailand, and he's going to go out there and he's going to test his newfound striking. What do you mean? I mean, it's crazy. Like, these guys go to Thailand one time and all of a sudden think they're a good striker. It's like, what do you mean Ryan Loder's going to test out his newfound striking? And as soon as they said that, I knew it was done. It was a wrap. And then seconds after that was said, Ryan Loder gets sparked. He decided not to wrestle. He decided to test his newfound striking, which is absolutely dog shit. And Ryan Loder got knocked out brutally in the very first round. Horrible bet. Horrible performance from Ryan Loder. Was not too happy with that performance. I don't mean to drag Weezy into this, but he bet on McConaughey against Ruzabo. Hey, don't drag Weezy into this. Don't drag Weezy into this. Come on. I was gonna say the same thing. Brady's uncovering. No, I'm not doing that. I'm staying far away from that. We got Brandon saying my worst bet had to be Blada a couple weeks ago. Oh, like minus 190, and she looked plus 500. Yeah, that's bad, man. I remember on Stat Diggers, me and Uncle Weezy, we brought up the Blada video where she's actually training in a gym with fuzzy slippers on. It's like I couldn't believe what I was looking at, and she showed up and she was clearly just not ready to fight. And I wonder if we will ever see Blada in there again, or at least not for a very long time. Look, she got hurt again. She got carried out of the octagon. That's pretty brutal. Yuck. I mean, yeah, you're going to be saying yuck to all 10 of these. That's what this is, Haymaker. This is the worst bets of 2025. Pipe it up 2026. I'm ready to pipe it up, man. I'm ready to pipe it up. That's not true, Big Steve, because you know that me and you both like our unders, and the unders did really good this year. Unders did very good this year. There's a lot of violence. There was no, glove narrative this year. There was a lot of violence. So that's incorrect, Big Steve. Because if you tell me it was probably on like an under, and it probably hit. So yeah. Max Holloway versus Ilya Taporia. I bet Max by decision and took a hit. Well, Max was looking like decent. He was looking decent up until he got cracked big in the, I think, second or third round. But he was looking okay. He was looking solid. Alex Sava to beat Segulia as a favorite might have been my worst bet. We'll talk about that one on this list too. Can we get a rendition of Zombie in appreciation for our girl booking a fight versus Segulia? That's going to be a good fight. Claudia Segulia versus Zombie Girl. I'm excited for that. That's a very good fight. Luis Garuli, minus 203 units against Aguilar. Felt so stupid watching it. Yeah. And Garuli was doing well. He just kept getting hurt against Jesus Aguilar. It was the weirdest thing ever. We got Yes Freak in the building. Good to see you. How's your weight, Brandy? New year, new you. Yeah, what's up, Yes Freak? And yeah, working on lifting over the break. And yeah, definitely got to get the weight down. Once you showed me videos of Blada training in furry slippers, I bet the house on her opponent. Yeah, I mean, I should have as well. I bet Michelle Pereira versus Abu and Kennedy versus Buchecha. I mean, at least you got your money back, right? That was a push for the Kennedy Buchecha fight. Zombie. All right, next worst bet of the year. It was on the same card. It was Denzel Freeman versus Murik Bujlo, under 1.5 rounds at minus 135. And I thought I was getting a steal here. At minus 135, thought I was getting an absolute steal. Bujlo had never seen the second round. All Bujlo's fights are ending in the first couple of minutes of the fight. You add up Bujlo's entire career, you don't even get 7.5 minutes. I thought I was getting a steal at minus 135. And the fight starts, and it's like Bujlo, I don't know, he just does something he's never done before. I mean, in all of his fights, he's looking to grapple in the first 20 seconds. But in this fight, he decided to throw all that out the window and just strike with Denzel Freeman for 50 minutes. It was such a bad performance. Bujlo actually got cut right after that fight, and rightfully so. That was a horrible performance from Murik Bujlo. And Denzel Freeman didn't do much better. I mean, Denzel Freeman really didn't do much better. He was like moaning the entire fight. I don't know what he was making, some of the weirdest sounds I've ever heard in a fight, doing absolutely nothing. They basically played patty cake for 15 minutes. There were really no grappling exchanges. Really, nobody tried. Just a horrible fight. One of the worst fights of 2025 and one of my worst bets of 2025. That fight took absolute years off my life. I couldn't believe it. I just puked in my mouth. Yeah. I would never play this under 1.5. Fair enough. I actually liked it quite a bit. I thought Denzel Freeman was going to run through this bum. And he is a bum. Bujlo is an absolute bum. I mean, if you're Denzel Freeman finished Stephen Asplin in 6 minutes. How do you finish Stephen Asplin in 6 minutes, but not lose to Bujlo, but take him to decision? Just made no sense. Made absolutely no sense. Yeah, that's fair. Anytime you bet on Kennedy, you have to absolutely look in the mirror. Absolutely got to look in the mirror after betting on Kennedy and any Kennedy fight. That's just how it is. We got Bobby to go. Watching Patchy Mix get his ass beat by Mara Batista and then laying heavy chalk on him to beat with Viklach. Could not believe my eyes. What was I watching, especially in the grappling exchanges? Yeah, Pat. We'll talk about Patchy Mix on this list as well, actually. Freeman almost finished him with the woos, and he was like, woo, like, shut up, Denzel Freeman. I hope you get your ass whooped on UFC 325 versus Josh Hogan. I hope he gets his ass whooped, man. I can't stand Denzel Freeman. I cannot stand Denzel Freeman. And yeah, we'll talk about Patchy in a second. All right. Next worst bet of 2025. I had the Bo Nickel double chance, KO or decision. And this is a shame because I've always said that Reinier de Ridder has no cardio. Reinier de Ridder has no striking. Reinier de Ridder is a big quitter. And I still think that's true, but, got it a couple fights too late because, Brendan Allen made him quit. Brendan Allen made him not even be able to stand up after the rounds. But yeah, would have liked to have this one back. Bo Nickel was a pretty big favorite, like minus 300. I got the line down to minus 175 with the KO decision double chance. I thought he could knock out de Ridder or at least win a decision there. And I thought he showed pretty bad fight IQ in that fight. Jumping for a guillotine in the first round was a horrible look, and then he kind of got broken. Very bad look for Bo Nickel. But I think that in a sense was a really good thing to happen to Bo Nickel because he came back in his next fight against Rodolfo Vieira, and I thought he made a ton of improvements after that de Ridder fight. I thought it was a big wake-up call. I thought it was probably a humbling experience. And who knows if they run it back one day, they're probably not. But if they were to run it back one day, maybe Bo Nickel would get him this time around because I'm not even sure Reinier de Ridder is going to fight again. With some of the stuff I've been hearing, he says he can't even walk up the steps without being completely gassed. What do you mean you can't walk up the steps without being completely gassed? Like what's wrong with de Ridder? I'm worried about de Ridder. And it looks like de Ridder actually has a fight against Kyle Bahayo, and Kyle's probably going to smoke him if you're getting tired walking up the steps. Kyle's going to smoke you. So yeah, it was a very, very bad look. Bo Nickel got smoked very badly. Everyone's worst bet's got to be Dolgarian. Well, that was a fixed fight. That was a fixed fight. Luckily, I was able to cash out of that just in time. But yeah, that it was a fixed fight. What can you do? What can you do? We'll get there. You guys are getting ahead of it. You guys are getting a little bit ahead of it. We will talk about that. Don't you worry. We will talk about that. All right. Next worst bet of the year. Carlos Leal wins by knockout, minus 110 versus Muslim Salikov. And I like this one quite a bit. Carlos Leal was like minus 400. Minus 500. He was facing a 60-year-old Muslim Salikov. Carlos Leal, extremely durable. He had never been knocked out. I don't think Carlos Leal had ever been hurt. This guy had an iron chin, and he was going up against a 60-year-old as a big favorite. I really thought Leal was going to run right through Muslim Salikov, kind of like Uros Medic did a couple weeks ago. But yeah, very bad bet. I could have just as easily probably took the under 1.5. I could have took maybe the fight won't start round 3 at probably the same price. I was just very confident, overly confident in Carlos Leal. Quite frankly, that was a shocking outcome to me. Not only losing to Salikov was pretty shocking, but also getting sparked in like a minute by Muslim Salikov, who was a 60-year-old man. That was shocking as well. So yeah, that ended pretty brutally. And guess what? That was another card that was in the Middle East. And like I said, Middle Eastern cards are cursed, at least for me. If it's a card in the Middle East, it's cursed, and some weird stuff's going to happen. And like I said, over half of my worst bets have taken place in the Middle East. So I'm taking note. You live and you learn, and I've learned that Middle Eastern cards are not my thing. So Carlos Leal wins by knockout. One of the worst bets of the year. Got brutally knocked out in his own right. Muslim Salikov did bad things to my wallet this year. Shout out to Uros for helping me get it back. Yeah, shout out to Uros. I think I had like the fight. Well, yeah, I had the fight won't start round 2 in the Medic Salikov fight at a pretty good number, so that was pretty good. Was it really? Yeah, see, that's bad. That was a lapse in judgment on my part. I just was not, because Carlos Leal's dirt. You could hit this guy with a truck. Carlos Leal could get run over by a truck, and it'd be like, I'm all right, man. But he gets knocked out by a 60-year-old man. That was shocking. But yeah, if the fight ends by knockout, was minus 130. That was even worse. I bet on JDM. Oh gosh, against Islam. Yeah, that's not great, man. You got like 50-45. 50-45. I forgot Michael Johnson beat Daniel Zellhuber too. Oh my goodness. Well, that I think was probably a fixed fight as well. That was the fight where Zellhuber decided to only throw kicks for 15 minutes. literally threw 0 punches, just threw kicks, head kicks for 15 minutes that were blocked. I mean, 90% of those kicks were blocked by Michael Johnson. Just a really bizarre performance from Zellhuber, who was like minus 800. Just very, 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 very bad. Worst bet has to be Loder Nardiev. Nardiev, so obvious. I mean, not really. I mean, Nardiev has no cardio. Nardiev has no heart. Nardiev has no ground game. I mean, the path was there for Loder, but Loder, like I said, he went to Bangkok. He was hanging out with the Ladyboys. And once you go to Thailand, like I said, once you go to Thailand once, these guys think they're strikers. And Ryan Loder decided, hey, I'm a striker now. I'm going to test my newfound striking. And yeah, we've seen it a lot in 2025 where there are just really bad game plans. These wrestlers aren't wrestling, and this was one of the many instances. And we'll talk about a couple coming up where you have a significant advantage on the ground and you don't use it. For what reason, I'm not sure. But Ryan Loder decided to test the newfound striking from Thailand. So, yeah, but if you watch any Zellhuber fight, that's exactly how he fights. That's not true. I watched go watch the Zellhuber Ribovics fight. He landed like 200 punches. It just made no sense. I went back and watched that Zellhuber Ribovics fight, and he's throwing a ton of punches. But in the Johnson fight, he threw 0. It was ridiculous. I think that making it competitive with Robert Valentin is just a big red flag. Yeah, Valentin went like 0 for 3 or 0 for 4 even. I'm looking at a Torres Finney fade. Yeah, I can't wait to talk about that fight. Torres Finney versus Jacob Malkoon in Australia. I'll be breaking that down in a couple weeks. All right. Next worst bet of the year. And this one was brutal. I mean, this night was brutal because I forget which card it was. Let's see. One of the pay-per-views. UFC 318. Let me just pull up UFC 318. Because I had one of the best starts ever on UFC 318. It was absolutely ridiculous, the start I had. So let me pull this up. All right. So I had Carly Giudice by knockout to kick off the card. It was like plus 500. I had Ferreira McVeigh under 1.5 rounds. Hit that. I had Ryan Spann to win and under 1.5 rounds. I hit that. I had a max bet on Jimmy Crute. I hit that. I had the under 1.5 rounds in the Dolatov Fugit fight. I hit that. I had the under 1.5 rounds in the Gauthier Valentin fight. I hit that. I mean, look at this run I had on this card. Hit my first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bets, 7, because I had a bet on Nikolai Veretinikov as an underdog, and that came through. I hit my first 7 bets. I was up close to like 15 units on the night on 318. It's like this could be a legendary night. And then the main card starts, and it's like Zellhuber loses to Michael Johnson. I lose a parlay on Zellhuber. I lose Zellhuber inside the distance. Somehow, some way, Zellhuber loses to Michael Johnson. It makes no sense, but it happened. I lost a big bet on Dan Ige. Dan Ige showed up. Well, he didn't show up. Dan Ige looks like he didn't even try in that fight. 0 urgency, loses to Pitbull. And then Kevin Holland loses to D-Rod, lose a big parlay with Kevin Holland. I lose Kevin Holland inside the distance. I mean, everything just went to crap on that main card. So I think I still had like a winning night on the card, but it was like only like a couple units. It could have been like a 20-unit night had, Zellhuber did his job as a minus 800 favorite, had Holland done his job as a minus 500 favorite, had Ige did his job. But yeah, Kevin Holland has a parlay piece, minus 395. It still makes no sense to me whatsoever. It still makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever. He lost to 40-year-old Daniel Rodriguez. And actually, after the fight, it came out that Kevin Holland was fighting compromised. There were some rumors swirling that he was fighting after, just being knocked out, a week or two prior, fighting, concussed. And he looked concussed in there. Kevin Holland looked like he was concussed in there, and he got dropped. I mean, Kevin Holland, who's next level durable, he got dropped multiple times by D-Rod, got 10-8'd by D-Rod. Just a very bizarre performance, and after that, you can never trust Kevin Holland. But after that fight, Kevin Holland went on the absolutely never bet again list. I mean, after that, you just can't bet on Kevin Holland. How can you lose to Daniel Rodriguez? I mean, it's a layup. It's an absolute layup. So Kevin Holland is on my no bet list going forward. And I don't know. He kind of looks washed these days. He looked awful against Malott. You know, he did get kicked in the balls, but looked awful against Malott. And I mean, how do you lose to Daniel Rodriguez? Just makes absolutely no sense. And yeah, Kevin Holland, we'll be talking about him on the award show. He might be a contender for, you know, somebody who needs to get some help this year. Made it even worse is that Kevin Holland could have finished him in the, yeah, he could have. He could have. He was like one elbow away, one punch away from finishing D-Rod in the third round. And what does he do? Some jumping, flying knees. like what the heck? Like, what the heck? Like, what are you doing? Like, get some help, Kevin Holland. 2 worst bets of the year for black belt. DL is Holland over D-Rod. Yeah, right there with you. And Hoofy over BSD. Yeah. Yep. I had the fight won't start round 3 in the Hoofy BSD fight, which, you know, barely came through. And yeah, it was. I think in terms, when you look at 2025, I think the biggest disaster of the year was that Kevin Holland fight. I mean, that was literally it was like a 12-unit swing for me. If Kevin Holland just wins the fight, and especially finishes the fight, it's like a 12-unit swing, and I'm up like 20 units at UFC 318. Yet Kevin Holland dropped the ball. Let's see. I took the over 1.5 in the Gaudier Treston Vines. Oh, wow. Well, you know, to be fair, Treston Vines actually tried to hit that for you. Treston Vines was, you know, skirting on the edge of the octagon for like 2.5 minutes. But once he got touched once, he just kind of toppled over. Yeah, it was a really weird KO. Like, I was, you know, singing, you know, In the Arms of the Angel for Treston Vines, and I think he got away, you know, best case scenario. He got knocked out, but not really. I feel like everyone was hitting before the main card on 318. It was crazy, man. I mean, everything was going so good. And then the main card hits, and it's like, how are all these unks are winning, man? Pitbull's winning. Michael Johnson's winning. All these 40-year-old unks are getting it done on the 318 main card. It was insane. Yeah, that was bad. That was, you know, a smash your TV type performance. Just, it was a nightmare. It was a nightmare. Absolutely. I swear the Pitbull matchup was tailor-made for Ige. Yeah, I love the matchup for Ige. He literally just needed to sprawl and brawl. Yeah, stuff the takedowns, and he just did nothing for 15. Even hurt Pitbull. And just did nothing. Zell Huber minus 800 was always insane. Yeah, that's true, but at the same time, it's Michael Johnson. You know, he should be beating Michael Johnson, and we're going to see Johnson fight, I think, at UFC 324 versus Alexander Hernandez, and hopefully for Hernandez throw some punches. And I agree. I think Zell Huber is overrated for sure. Holland was a no bet for me after the Wonderboy fight. Yeah, rightfully so. He was on top of Wonderboy and it helped him up. Like, what are you doing, Kevin Holland? What are you doing, Kevin Holland? Been a tough past couple of years. No, I had a winning year this year. I was down slightly last year. I wouldn't say so. But trust me, Tristan, we're going to talk about the best bets. But you got to talk about the worst bets as well, you know? Tristan, Jake Paul, Vine. Yeah, they did pretty much the same thing. Tristan Vines doing the Jake Paul. Yeah. He didn't do it too well, though. Gaudier KO1 is a cheat code against these bums. I remember I hit plus 155 on him against Valentine. Nice. Yeah, I had the under 1.5 there. At a pretty good price. Gaudier is a problem. Agreed. Been a good year overall. So I went on like a skid in late summer, early fall, but finished the last quarter very strong. Had a really good November, really good December. Joshua Van Dummy for 4K against Royval and 2K Pantoja in both my parlays. There you go. There you go. All right. Much respect for talking about the worst bets. So many MMA picks bros ignore the bad weeks and pretend they always win. I mean, you're going to have losing. People don't understand that. Like, you're going to have losing bets. You're going to have losing nights, and a lot of them. You're going to have losing streaks. But yeah, people don't understand that. They just want to, see the wins. But we're talking about the losses. And I think it's fun to go back and look, and it's smart to go back and look and kind of see where you can improve for next year. Where can I improve for next year? No Middle Eastern cards and no parlays. Those are the two areas that hurt me this year. All right. Speaking of Middle Eastern cards, another Middle Eastern disaster. Melissa Mullins wins inside the distance plus 125 versus Daria Zelnikova. So I'm sure everybody watched their first fight. And what happened in the first fight? In the first fight, Melissa Mullins takes down Daria Zelnikova and smashes her face in and TKOs her brutally in the first round, right? The second fight comes around in the UFC, and what happens? Melissa Mullins decides to, you guessed it, test her newfound striking, which is horrible. And it was frustrating because Melissa Mullins actually took down Daria Zelnikova late in the first round with like 20 seconds left and destroys her in the last 20 seconds, almost finishes her in the last 20 seconds of the fight. And then the second round comes around, and it's like she's not shooting takedowns against Daria Zelnikova, who has no ground game at all. And then she gets hurt to the body, and then she gets a takedown. She gets it easily, and she gets on top for the last, couple minutes of the round. It's like, what are you doing, Melissa Mullins? And then in the third round, she's, too beat up to do anything. It was one of the most bizarre performances I think I've ever seen in my entire life. You have an astronomical advantage on the ground and don't go to it. It's like, what are you doing, Melissa Mullins? It kind of feels like a fixed fight, because how do you not try to take down Zelnikova, who has no takedown defense, who has no ground game? It's just a very bizarre performance there. Rematches rarely go the same, agreed, but it's like, holy crap, Melissa Mullins has such a big advantage on the mat. Like, it's like you should be beating Zelnikova. And I'm kind of high on Mullins, but maybe not so much anymore. But yeah, if she fights to her strengths, I mean, she's pretty good. I was split between being angry about losing my money and laughing at how stupid Mullins is watching this fight. Yeah, it was like a smasher TV moment. It's like, what are you doing, Melissa Mullins? What are you doing? What are you doing, Melissa Mullins? Mullins was sharp. I live bet her at like 1.3 after round one. Big at 2. I mean, Melissa Mullins needs her brain examined for what she did against Daria Zelnikova. And like I said, it's a Middle East card, man. And the next fight was on the same Middle East card, same Middle Eastern card. You had Irina Alekseeva wins inside the distance plus 170 versus Claudia Segulya. Claudia Segulya is a white belt that's never grappled a day in her life against Irina Alekseeva. And Alekseeva goes out there, and you guessed it, she tests her newfound striking. Alekseeva attempted 0 takedowns against white belt Claudia Segulya. I mean, this card as a whole, because I had Mullins. I was very confident in Mullins. I was very confident in Alekseeva. This card as a whole gave me AIDS, and I am currently living with AIDS. And it's a tough process. Working my way through it. Taking it day by day. But yeah, this card gave me AIDS, man. How do you both these ladies, Mullins and Alekseeva, had astronomical advantages on the mat, but decided not to take that route. Both of them just absolutely brutal fight IQ between these two ladies on the same card. And I think the fights were back to back. And yeah, Brady Magic, yeah, it's a shame, but this card gave me AIDS. It's not full blown, but it's pretty close. Pretty close to being full blown. I almost cashed out Irina ITD when I heard the commentators say that Segulya was training at ATT. If only, yeah, ATD's been a phenomenal gym, and I think it's a great spot for Segulya. Getting great looks, a lot of great female fighters there, and you're going to make improvements there. But I mean, that was just a horrible game plan from Irina Alekseeva. I'm not sure. I'm not a medical professional, but yeah, I do have some aids from that card. But like I said, I'm not a medical professional, and it is self-diagnosed. All right, let's see. So we've talked about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bad bets. Let's talk about another bad bet. So, typically like it's a plus 400 sprinkle, right? You can't go wrong with the big, plus 400 sprinkle. But at the end of the day, Patchy Mix by 7. I only had like a half unit on it or so. At the end of the day, it's like, what was that, Patchy Mix? What are you doing out there, Patchy Mix? I mean, that was just a horrible, horrible debut. And he actually followed it up with another horrible performance against Jakub Viklac. And just an absolute shame on Patchy Mix. I truly thought this guy was one of the best bantamweights in the world, and he proves to be not anywhere near that. I mean, I'm not even convinced. Like, if you can't beat Jakub Viklac, we have a serious problem. If you can't beat Mario Batista, something's wrong. You're not anywhere near the best in the world, and he's definitely not. But yeah, plus 400, he just came nowhere close to it. He didn't even try to grapple. Bizarre game plan, bizarre performance, and Mario Batista made it look pretty easy there. Yeah, and it was a robbery. It was a robbery. It was such a bad robbery. And thank goodness Hamdy's cut. Thank goodness Hamdy's cut and out of there. So yeah, Patchy Mix. All right, let's go to this next one. And I don't know. This one played out pretty poorly. Obviously, Brad Katona plus 160 versus Bexot, but I don't know if Brad Katona could have extended the fight. I thought he had the better cardio. Thought he had a wrestling path. Thought he had the better volume. Of course, Amakan has the better power, and that power played a big factor. And we got knocked out in the first 30 seconds of that fight. Would have liked to see it play out, but in terms of a bad bet and how it played out, I'd say that was a pretty bad bet. Brad Katona got absolutely iced by Bex and Amakan. And I don't know, did Brad Katona get cut? I think Brad Katona might have got cut, which is crazy. Maybe I'm wrong, but yeah, bad performance by Brad Katona. Didn't really get to see it get played out, but got iced there. Patchy Mix stopped juicing when he got to the UFC, and maybe that's it. He just doesn't look the same. He doesn't look the same at all. And yeah, he looks like a bum, man. I mean, how are you losing to Jakub Viklac? How are you getting out grappled by Jakub Viklac? It just makes no sense. My wife is in the other room. What did I say? What did I say? I didn't say anything bad, did I? Jacoby Smith not finishing Nico Price under 1.5 rounds. Yeah, that was bad. And then when he won, he subbed him. Yeah, that was ridiculous. Jacoby Smith going life and death with Nico Price for 7.5 minutes was ridiculous. Not finishing. I mean, that was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. Vexat KO was like plus 370. Dang. Yeah. And that's probably how you'd win, and that's how he won. Katona got cut after that one. Yeah, I mean, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with him getting cut. I mean, Katona's, love him or hate him, he's a very good fighter. But yeah, that was not a good performance. Minus 300 for the over 2.5 in the Katona Amakan fight was was it minus 300? Yeah, and I thought it would go the distance too, like at a very high clip. Katona's next level durable. Katona's finishing nobody. But yeah, he got sparked early. So yeah, I would have loved to see that fight played out, but at the end of the day, pretty bad bet. An absolutely terrible bet I placed was Cody Gibson versus Arichi Long. Yeah, that was weird. I mean, Cody Gibson, another tough guy, got sparked in 30 seconds? I actually missed that fight. I was out talking to Uncle Weezy, and I walk in, and it's like Cody Gibson's knocked out. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. All right. In this next one, so I'm looking through my tracked betting record, and I see this bet. I'm like, did I get possessed at some point this year? Did I get possessed by a demon or at some point this year? Because I would never bet Leon Edwards in a fight. I'm like, there's no way I actually placed this bet. But yeah, I guess I did. I don't remember doing it. Like I said, I think it was possessed. I think a demon got a hold of me, and I think I need to go get some professional help, because betting on Leon Edwards is just not something I would do. Luckily, I got it back with Prochez later in the year, but I just couldn't believe that I actually bet on Leon Edwards. It just makes no sense. I guess in theory, Edwards has some solid takedown defense. He beat some solid wrestlers like Usman. He beat some solid wrestlers like Covington. But I mean, just with the way that play out, I mean, the fight wasn't remotely close. Sean Brady got it done pretty easily. So yeah, I think it might have been possessed. So I don't want to blame myself. I want to blame the demon that hopefully is gone now. That placed this bet, because I did not place a bet like this. That's horrible. I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw that. Not gonna lie, he did look good at underdog odds. I mean, I don't know what I was thinking, man. That's not something I would typically do. Bet on Leon Edwards. That's not something I would typically do. Merry holidays, bros. You as well, Freedom Guy. Good to see you in here. Yeah, Sean, I even went against the milking. Like, I don't know what I was, like I said, I think I got possessed or somebody hacked my account or something weird happened that week, because there is no way I'm betting on Leon Edwards. I don't get that. I don't get that. All right, we got, I think, let's see. Okay. And then, so that's 9 worst bets. We're going to talk about the last worst bet. And let's give a parlay. This is a parlay that I bet, and it was on another Middle Eastern card, I believe, of course. And the parlay was Jacqueline Amorim money line parlayed with Jailton Almeida, Alexander Volkov under 2.5 rounds. Let's start with the Amorim fight. Mizuki Inoue was on like a 2.5, 3-year layoff, battling dozens of knee injuries. I thought she was going to show up with like a peg leg, like a pirate to that fight. And Inoue goes out there and wins pretty comfortably. And yeah, shout out to Inoue. She was off for a while, and I can't wait to see Inoue back in there in 2030. I'm looking forward to it. We're going to see her back in there in 4 years. And once we do see Inoue back in there, I'm looking forward to maybe backing her in 2030, 2031 when she shows up again. But yeah, that was bizarre. I mean, Inoue had like one fight in the last 5 years. I couldn't believe my eyes. I think it was the first fight of the night too, and it's like, holy crap, that just happened. And then the parlay was already dead, but it's like Jailton Almeida, Alexander Volkov under 2.5 rounds. Jailton just laid on him for 15 minutes. It was one of the worst fights of the year. And yeah, just a horrible, horrible, terrible parlay. Absolutely awful. Happy pipings and merry milkings. Yes, sir. Yeah. So bad. So bad. Absolutely so bad. We got Matumbo in the building. What is up? I think in the video of the Edwards fight, you said Brady, but later said Edwards. There was something a bit funk with your breakdown in the betting breakdown video. I don't know. I think I got possessed by a demon. And that'll happen to you. That'll happen to you, here and there. But hopefully the demon is, I think I went to an exorcist, and I think I'm good now. I think I'm good now. They gave Amorim the worst girls in the roster to fool us into thinking she was decent. I guess so, man. I thought she was making improvement. She's at ATT. She's getting that South Florida sun. I couldn't believe it, man. That's one of mine too. Yeah, just ridiculous. I had so much in Amorim. I didn't have a ton of on her, but I had her in a parlay, and I thought she would win. That's my fault. I don't know why I keep getting low-level MMA. Like, it's really bad to gamble on, and you think it has a clear victor. Yeah, and that was just bad. Like, she gassed out, and she almost had a submission in the first round, but outside of that, was just horrible. Yeah, demons, just stay away from them, man. All right, so that is the 10 worst bets of the year. I thought those are pretty fun and interesting to hear some of your guys' worst bets. But like I always say, you got to learn from it. You got to learn from some of these bets. Like what can you learn from this? It's like what I learned is Middle Eastern cards are cursed for me. Parlays are cursed for me, and it's hard to trust fighters with bad fight IQ. So, yeah, those are the worst bets for 2025. Now let's get to the 10 best bets here, and I'm gonna do a Q&A here. What are your best bets for 2025? All right. Let me know your guys' best bets for the year of 2025. And I had a lot to choose from. Like I wrote a lot down. I had to kind of condense it. I had a lot of really good bets this year. A lot of really good plus money bets that hit and came through, but I condensed it to my favorite 10 bets of the year. So the first one we'll talk about is going to be on a card I was attending. Manuel Torres wins and the under 0.5 rounds at plus 850 versus Grant Dawson. And this was a hedge bet, but this bet kind of saved my night. I mean, I had a half unit on it at plus 850 to win 4.25 units. And my thinking here was, Manuel Torres, he had 15 wins that came under a half of a round. And the other two went over a half round. One went to decision, and the other was against Frank Camacho. But when he's winning fights, just like Terrence McKinney, he's winning fights under a half a round. And this did hit very closely to the 2.5 minute mark. I think there was like 5 seconds left. Luckily, Grant Dawson got knocked out with like 2 minutes and 35 seconds left in the first round. This hits, and yeah, really helped me that night, because if this didn't hit, it wouldn't have been as big of a night as it was at UFC 323. And I was freaking out because I was very intoxicated during that during this fight. And I didn't know if it hit under 0.5 round. I didn't know how to go check. And luckily there was 5 seconds to spare and hit the Manuel Torres under 0.5 rounds. And it's funny. I'm putting this on my best bets, but I actually got a very interesting DM from one of my subscribers and longtime viewers. And he basically did a whole paragraph saying, since I had a kid, I don't try anymore, which couldn't be any further from the truth. Since I've had a kid, I've actually probably trying like 100% more. But he actually said that Manuel Torres to win in under a half a round was a horrible bet. And he was kind of crapping on my bet. I'm like, what are you talking about, dude? He was like, why would you bet Manuel Torres under a half a round when you can get round one at plus 450? And it's like, well, because 15 of his wins come under a half a round. It was a great bet. And even like Torres under a half a round and by knockout was plus 950. And I talked about those on the betting breakdown, showing all that. I thought it was a phenomenal bet. And yeah, it really helped me at UFC 323. So definitely one of my best bets of the year was in this this Torres fight. Really happy with that, how that played out. It was kind of at the buzzer, but got it done regardless. I think after Amorim, Vieira, Buchecha, I might just fade ex-BJJ champs by default. Yeah. Why not? Why not? A lot of them do not have a success in the UFC. I had a shit ton on Charles and Rio versus Gamrot, one of my best bets this year. I was so hyped. Yeah, I had the under there. I got the under like 3.5 at like a pick'em. And it's like, what's going on? Why am I getting the under 3.5 at a pick'em in a Charles Oliveira fight? So that was a big hit. Big hit there. But yeah, Charles kind of ran right through Gamrot. Great bet there. Also had so much on Valentina versus Zhang. That's probably one of the best bets of the year. I mean, that was sweat free and it was at a very playable line. I think Valentina was like minus 130. So yeah, good bet there. Best bets: Jaime Barcelos money line versus Talbot. Phenomenal bet. Vera sub plus 1275. And then 40 units on Turner Barbosa fight doesn't go to decision. Yeah, I was on a couple of those too. Not the Barcelos. I stayed away from that fight, but yeah, Vera sub I was on, and the Turner Barbosa violence I was on as well. Worst bet: Medic versus Puna. Yeah, that was brutal. I'm not a big fan of Puna, man. I don't know. I'm going to be looking to fade Puna in his next fight, I think. Yeah, Medic did get starched. Durden round 2 sub 23. What against Schnell? Against Matt Schnell? That was a phenomenal bet. I think everybody was expecting Durden to knock out Schnell, and he submitted him. That's a phenomenal bet there. Geez, you hit a draw. I mean, congratulations. Hitting a draw is hard to, but that makes sense because we've seen Crute go to a draw a couple times. Best bet was Michael Johnson. Yeah, great bet. He was like plus 500, plus 600. Phenomenal bet there. Best bet of the year: Jillian Robertson to KO Marina Rodriguez plus 1400. Runner up JDM by decision over what's his name plus 500. Two very good bets there, absolutely. Best bet would be Jake Paul to get KO'd by AJ. His legs were giving out because he had to fight differently than normally does. Running around is dead for a heavyweight. Yeah, what were the odds of the KO prop? I didn't bet on the fight. I was about to, but I don't know. I was about to look like it ended like an early KO prop, but it happened in like the 6th round. I think I owe Brady a big shout out for the Jillian bet. Oh, we'll talk about that one pretty soon. We'll talk about that one really soon. One of my favorite bets was Ricci finishing against T-Boss. Didn't think it would hit. I mean, that had to have been like plus 1,200 because Ricci's not really finishing anybody. So yeah, that had to have been some really good odds. Brady always shaking off the haters like Neo in the Matrix. I don't have a ton of haters, you know, a couple here and there, but not really a ton. One of my cleanest bets was Joseph Morales against Matt Schnell. Got him at minus 200. There you go. That's a great bet. Had a couple good vet underdog. I mean, it was the year of the Unk. It was the year of the Unk. Hopefully Uncle Weezy at the mall playing Mall Santa for the kids. He's got the perfect look for work. Yeah, I wonder what Uncle Weezy's doing right now. Did anyone have Saint Denis to beat Dariush? I think most people did. I did. That was a big hit for me. I think we'll talk about it on this list. I actually played Talbot minus 1,100. One of my worst bets, not straight, but it was like a 4-leg parlay with Rinya and Umar. It happened, man. Those parlays are tough, man. Merry Christmas, Brother Brady. You as well, Forrest. Paul to get KO'd is like minus 370. Yeah, I mean, minus 370. What can you do? But yeah, it looked free, right? Kinda. I mean, went to the 6th round. I had 2 units on Fight Goes in the Chimaev DDP fight. Holy crap. Yeah, plus 350. Wow. I had Lopez by KO over Silva when everyone was on Silva. Yeah, that was phenomenal. Anthony Joshua to win and get over 1.5 knockdowns was like plus 1. Yeah, I was looking at that too. I was looking at that as well. Didn't get to it. Had a couple good vet plus money picks. Grant over Blackshear. There you go. Paulo Costa over Kopylov. Great bet. Rob Font over Matsumoto. All great bets, man. All right. Let's get to the next best bet of the year. And it is none other than my titty back. Oral Boy wins by knockout at plus 275. And it's actually funny. I bet this plus 275 early in the fight week, right? And I'm like, I can't believe this line. Plus 275, my titty back Oral Boy to knock out Jack Hermansson, who just came off of dying. It was the first death we've ever seen in the octagon versus Gregory Rodriguez a couple months ago, cutting an extra 15 pounds of weight. And I actually get reverse CLV'd badly because you can get, by the time the fight kicked off, you can get my titty back Oral Boy by knock at like plus 375. I'm like, what? I'm getting reverse CLV'd pretty bad here. And he goes out there and he like kills Jack Hermansson in the first round. It looked like he barely touched him, landed a perfect shot on the side of the head, and down goes Jack Hermansson like a sack of potatoes. And yeah, plus 275. I could have got plus 375 had I waited, but I really did not expect the line to get worse because it was like such an obvious type of outcome there in a fight where Jack Hermansson probably shouldn't have been sanctioned to fight. He just literally died a couple months back. And cutting down to welterweight made 0 sense at almost 40 years old. So thought that was a phenomenal bet. I wish I would have went heavier on it. I think I had maybe a unit on it or like 0.75 units on it. Was planning on maybe adding on after seeing Jack on the scales. And to be fair, Jack did look good on the scales. I thought Jack made weight. He looked good doing it. But still, I mean, just not a great look for Jack Hermansson. One thing I've realized is that parlays are shit most of the time. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of parlays. You know, Vegas was built on parlays, but I mean, they're fun if you're looking for something fun to do. But yeah, no, I'm not a big fan of parlays at all. Lerone Murphy plus 170 versus Aaron Pico was so disgusting. I had the Lerone Murphy finish only there. I forget what the line was, but yeah, imagine what like Murphy by KO could have been. Could have been a pretty big number, but I had Murphy finish only because Pico gets finished all the time. Hermansson was also gigantic. Yeah, he looked a lot bigger in there, but I think his chin's cooked. I think he's cooked in general. Easiest and one of my bigger bets, Michael Aswell over Lucas Broken Hand Almeida. There you go. Take advantage of it. You got to take advantage of it. Parlays literally keep bookies in business. Margins on moneyline bets are much thinner. Yeah. Vegas was built on those parlays, and I'm not good. I'm not good at parlays, and I didn't do a ton this year, but when I did do them, they did not hit. So got to stay away from the parlays. For me personally, some people might have success with them, but it's not easy. All right, the next best bet of the year, Charles Racky to win by submission at plus 625 versus Daniel Frunza. And it was one of those things where it's like, I bet on Racky to win by submission a couple times and it hadn't worked out. I took Racky to win by submission against Blood Diamond, for obvious reasons. I've always talked about Charles Racky and how his grappling's underrated. We didn't really get to see it yet at the UFC level. He's shown it outside the UFC and CFFC, but we hadn't really get to see Racky use that ground game. He's kind of going out there and, finishing guys with that left hook. But he's facing Daniel Frunza, who's a white belt on the map. And my thinking was, Racky, why not just take the path of least resistance, get the fight down to the ground? And he did exactly that. It was this almost went in the bad beat section because Racky had a fully locked in rear naked choke in the very first round, fully locked in, and somehow, some way, Daniel Frunza is able to survive the fully locked in rear naked choke. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. You got to be kidding me. But luckily, Racky was able to take him down. He was able to milk him. He was able to submit him in the third round, cashing a nice plus 625 submission prop. Really was really happy with that. Again, almost a bad beat, but it came through. The Yadir Dalvai and Dalgarian fight was also so free to bet. I wish I bet more. Yeah, those fixed fights, you gotta take advantage of them. If they're fixed, you gotta jump on. I think after Volk versus Lopez 2, they should give it to Lerone Murphy. Looks like Lerone Murphy's fighting Movsar Evloev as long as it was not a fake announcement. It looks like Lerone Murphy's fighting Movsar Evloev. I think it was maybe 326, but I'm not sure. Somebody told me right before the fight, and I cashed out Dalgarian. Yeah, I was able to cash out as well of Dalgarian, thankfully. But yeah. All right. Next best bet of the year, and this was my favorite bet of the year. I'll never forget this night. I was at B-Dubs with a couple buddies of mine, and it's funny because I had the fight ends by knockout, and I had Prochazka to win by KO in rounds 2 or rounds 3 versus Khalil Roundtree, right? So if this comes through, it's a massive hit. And I went pretty heavy on. I think I had like a 1.25 units on this bet. And then another like 2 units on the fight ends by knock. So this was a big part of my night here. And one of my buddies, typically when we're watching fights, sometimes we're like, oh, I'll bet you $20 so-and-so wins. And he was like, okay. He was like, I bet you $20 that Roundtree gets it done. I'm like, okay, I'll take that bet, shake on it. And the fight kicks off. And he's clowning me the whole fight. He's like, this is easy. Prochazka's getting his ass whooped. And I'm like, hey, just wait a second, man. Just wait a second. Give him a second. Yuri doesn't start fighting until the second round. Just give him a second. And then the second round comes along, and it's like, you just give him a second, man. He's warming up. He's just getting started. You got to give Yuri a second. He's clowning on me. And then the third round hits. And then a couple minutes in the third round, he just goes berserk. Yuri, he starts really putting on the pressure, throwing defense out the window, eating one to give one, and just broke Khalil Roundtree. In my opinion, one of the best fights of the year. And I don't think it's getting talked about enough. People are talking about the fight of the year candidates. I haven't heard anybody mention that Yuri Prochazka Khalil Roundtree fight. I mean, that could be a potential fight of the year with how it played out, how they swung dicks in that third round, how Yuri broke him. So yeah, that was massive. Hit the Prochazka KO 2-3, hit the fight ends by KO, hit the side bet with my buddy. It was just a phenomenal night. That was a really good card for me as well. I think one of my best cards of the year was that card. But yeah, it was all because of Yuri Prochazka. Probably my favorite bet of the card. My book had Yadir round 1 plus 800 up until the fight started, and I didn't bet it. Yeah, it was as high as like plus 900 at one point. How could I forget about this one? I had Yuri to win, and he was losing the first 2 rounds. It was phenomenal. One of the best comebacks of the year. Evloev was getting shafted for his title shot. Shafted. Yuri really fights for your money. He does. You know, I'm always been a big fan of Yuri, but after that fight, I'm an even bigger fan of Yuri now. After that, that was phenomenal, and one of my favorite, probably my favorite fight in terms of, you know, from a betting perspective of the year. Yuri round 2, round 3 is something that can't be explained. You just have to watch with your own eyes, and yeah, that's why I bet the 2-3, because you look at Yuri's UFC run, and we can look it up here. This is a reason and there's always reasons I bet these things, right? I don't just bet them for no reason. You look at Yuri's wins, right? Volkan Oezdemir, round 2. Dominic Reyes, round 2. Alexander Rakic, round 2. Jamal Hill, round 3. Roundtree, round 3. You know, he has 0 first-round wins. You know, when he's winning fights, he's winning them later into the fight. When his fights are finishing, and all of them have finished, they all finish in the second or third round, and outside of the Glover fight, which finished in the 5th. But yeah, so that 2-3 was a very good look there in that fight. The most degenerate and disgusting bet I cashed was playing Montserrat Rendon against Alice Pereira. I don't know if I got there as well. I know I for sure picked Rendon. I think I might have put like a half unit on Rendon there. Should have self-excluded myself after that bet. Tape study of fraud Pereira came through. I mean, yeah, she was fighting in a mall. You know, I think if you fight in a shopping mall, I just can't take you serious. We'll talk about that one. I don't think it was a bad bet. I mean, he finished Vicente Luque twice. The ref just didn't stop it. Jerry has amazing bipolarism. It's very interesting. He's a very interesting guy. Yuri Prochazka. He's a very interesting guy. All right. Next, best bet. I got to throw this one in. I don't do max bets often. I think since the year like 2021, I have 2 max bets. I got to throw this one out there. Jimmy Crute, money line minus 238 versus Marcin Prachnio. And the reason he wasn't like minus 500 was because, for one, he's Jimmy Crute. And, you know, Jimmy Crute's, you know, very untrustworthy. And for 2, he just came off of a retirement. But that's kind of why I got this line here. Beat a lot of line movement with it. And he went out there and he handled Marcin Prachnio, and he handled him accordingly, submitting Marcin Prachnio in the very first round. And I'm actually upset, although I think it was a really good bet. I'm upset because when they open up the totals, they open up the over-under at a pick'em. And I'm like, what's going on? Why is the under 2.5 rounds a pick'em between these two? And I wanted to bet the under 2.5, but I already had 5 units on a sketchy fight. And then like Jimmy Crute round 1 was a big number. So I probably should have had like 10 units on this fight, but that's just not something I do, especially in a Jimmy Crute fight. You can't do that. But I thought it was a good bet. You know, there were some shaky moments here or there, but at the end of the day, he was able to get takedowns, and Marcin Prachnio can't grapple. Simple as that. So very happy with Jimmy Crute. And people were calling me crazy. People were calling me crazy for, you know, having a max bet on Jimmy Crute. They were calling me stupid. And maybe it was stupid. Maybe it was a little stupid, but I truly thought he should have been like minus 500 there. Arman sub definitely up there. I combined with Asu sub and Tapori decision. Jeez, $10 and a 2,600. Yeah, I didn't have anything on the Arman fight, but I did have the Asu fight doesn't go to decision at a pretty good number, plus 175. That's a great bet there. All right, let's keep moving on. We have Jake Matthews wins inside the distance, plus 475 against Chidi Njokuani. And I've always thought that Chidi was a quitter. This guy Chidi's been finished so many times. And the thing about Chidi, and I'll always say, and I've always said it, is anytime there's any adversity whatsoever, if there's any adversity, he's getting finished. If anything goes wrong for Chidi, if anybody puts up some resistance, he's getting finished in that fight. And what happened in this fight? He had to battle adversity. He had to battle adversity early on in the fight. He got his back taken. And I knew as soon as he got his back taken, the fight was over, because Chidi does not know how to battle adversity. And Matthews inside the distance was plus 475, which is crazy considering Chidi gets finished a lot. I think Chidi's been finished like 8 or 9 times, if not more. So yeah, Jake Matthews ITD plus 475, phenomenal bet. Made it look pretty easy. I could have went with Matthews by sub, but it wasn't much better. I think Matthews by sub was like plus 600. I went with the plus 475 just in case there was that TKO. But yeah, Jake Matthews inside the distance. I thought was a phenomenal bet there. Yeah, against Chidi Njokuani. Against a quitter. You know, I'd bet most people to finish Chidi at plus 475. So yeah, thought that was a phenomenal number there. I think I would enjoy having Yuri as a neighbor, like 95% of the time anyway. I don't know. I think it'd be pretty weird, but I think we'd see him doing some weird stuff. But I don't know. It'd be interesting. Petrino sub against Lane was plus 900. There you go. Got to credit Wheezy for that one. I know a couple people that were on that. Narco was on it. Wheezy was on it. Yeah, looked pretty easy. It looked minus 475. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, like I said, if Chidi has to battle adversity, it's a wrap. It's absolutely a wrap. All right. Next up, another good one here. We got Joshua Van to win by KO in rounds 2 or rounds 3 at plus 480 versus Bruno Silva. And yeah, this almost got thrown into the bad beat category as well because, I mean, Van was beating the crap out of Bruno Silva. He hurt him multiple times. He dropped him like 3 times in that fight, and then the ref's not stopping the fight. I'm like, come on, ref. I mean, he's taken enough. You know, that's the 3rd knockdown. It might be time to maybe look at stopping the fight. And I thought it was about to go the distance, and there was like a minute or 2 left, and then Van knocked him down one more time, and the ref said, okay, that's enough, stops the fight. Cashed a Joshua Van KO 2-3 at plus 480. And yeah, I like these Van 2-3 props. Van's a 2-3 type guy outside of the Pantoja fight, which was an injury, but you know, typically Van's a later type finish guy. And I will continue to bet, you know, these Van late finish props. Probably not against Manel Kopp, but you know, in the future, he's a 2-3 type guy. Flyweight has been so violently good. We need violence in the flyweight division. Absolutely, it has been violent too. Yeah, that the Horiguchi to Ulanbekov fight was a very violent fight. We saw Manel Kopp violently knock out Brandon Royval. We saw the Austin Mabayev submit Alex Perez. We've seen some violence in the flyweight division, which is good to see because it's not typically that violent of a division. But yeah, Van's a violent fighter. Van's a very violent fighter. Bruno Silva's underrated though. Yeah, I do. I've always thought Bruno Silva's underrated. He's getting tough matchups. He's getting very tough matchups. Cash in plus 175 against Hung Sung Park. There you go. I had the under there. It barely came through. Yeah, I like Silva. He is getting up there in age. He has taken a lot of damage, but you know, he has good jiu-jitsu. He's dangerous on the ground, and he has a lot of power for the flyweight divisions. I'm a big fan of Bruno Silva as well. It's just he's getting some tough matchups. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, couple more. And yeah, this was probably my best bet of the year, I'd say. Jillian Robertson wins by knockout, plus 1,100 versus Marina Rodriguez. Had a half unit on it to win 5.5 units. Phenomenal play there. I mean, Jillian's last 2 wins, or maybe 2 or 3, have came by ground and pound. She's starting to finally implement that ground and pound, and she's talked about how, you know, fighters are so worried about getting submitted that, you know, she's able to implement that ground and pound, and she's using that ground and pound more and more. And that's what she did against Marina Rodriguez. She took her down and she pounded her out. And it's a shame because I hit that KO at plus 1,100, but I was also looking at KO 2-3, which was astronomical. You know, the round 2-3 props for Robertson are always in play, but you know, I was very happy with that KO prop at plus 1,100. Probably one of my best, if not my best call of the entire year. You know, win 5.5 units on a female fight. I mean, it's incredible. So yeah, shout out to Robertson for that. Korea KO versus Alessandro Costa. It was plus 700. Dang, nice, very nice. Yeah, that was the very first ever pinky toe KO in UFC history. I mean, this guy Alessandro Costa got KO'd by a pinky toe. I mean, never seen anything like it in my life. But yeah, plus 800. I can't wait to see Correa back in there. I wonder if he's booked for a fight yet. I think he trains with Joshua Van them. So yeah, shout out to Correa. This guy is somebody to look out for. He looked incredible against Alessandro Costa, getting that first pinky toe KO. What about that dude that got KO'd round 1 after fighting with a broken hand? You're talking about Lucas Almeida? Yeah, that was wild. Lucas Almeida versus Michael Aswell. Yeah, that was crazy. I mean, this guy had a clearly broken hand. I can't believe they let that fight happen, but it did, and a lot of people made the books pay for it. All right, so that was probably my best bet of the year, I'd say. Another good bet here. This was early in 2025. Malcolm Willmaker to win by KO plus 360 versus Cameron Simon. Looking back at it, kind of crazy getting plus 360 on a KO prop in a Willmaker fight because, after that and going forward, you kind of have to lay chalk on some of these KO props for Malcolm Willmaker. We see that he's one of the hardest hitters in the division, and getting him by knockout against somebody who doesn't have the best chin and Cameron Simon at plus 360. We're probably never going to see a Malcolm Willmaker knockout prop anywhere near that ever again. So, yeah, I thought that was a pretty good bet. I was really happy with that one. It was brutal. It was a brutal knockout. And, yeah, kind of a shame what happened to Willmaker. And Willmaker, I thought, was on his way to being, newcomer of the year, rookie of the year up until his last fight, but still had a good year. I think he might have went 2-1 or 3-1 with some pretty brutal knockouts, and this was one of them. This kicked off the year for Malcolm Willmaker. Brazilian Commission would let you fight with both your arms missing. Yeah, apparently. It's crazy. All right. Let's see here. Next fight up. This was one I was attending live in Miami. And I mean, in hindsight, holy crap. Julian Erosa inside the distance plus 130 versus Darren Elkins. It probably should have been minus 1,000. Elkins looked done. Elkins looked completely washed. He looked like a wounded animal out there. It was actually quite hard to watch, that performance by Darren Elkins. It was one of the worst beatings of the year. It was, like I said, it was hard to watch. I felt very, very bad for Elkins in that matchup. But Julian Erosa was only like plus, or it was only like minus 250. Again, he should have been like minus 1,000 there. But yeah, Elkins, I'm really worried about Elkins. Is Elkins still on the roster? Because holy crap, he probably shouldn't ever fight again. Because he just looked bad. He looked so bad against Julian Erosa. Just terrible. Just absolutely terrible. Julie Plashri, round 3 at plus 1,700 against Kovacevic was one of my best bets of the year, and I should have been on that as well. But I was kind of trying to clean it up towards the end of the year, kind of trying to stack winning events together, and I kind of got away from some of the long shot props. But yeah, that's one I should have been on. Can't believe I wasn't on it, but yeah, congrats to everybody that was, because a lot of people were on that. Julian Erosa is pretty underrated too. Gave Mel Costa. That was a good fight. The Mel Costa Erosa fight, that was a very good fight. And yeah, he definitely had some moments there. We got Cole Stein in the building. You're the man, Brady. Thanks for the awesome content this year. No problem, Cole. The content is not done. We still got a lot coming out this week and the weeks going forward. Appreciate you, Cole. Darren, the damaged Elkins. Yeah, it's bad. It's very bad. Morales round 1 was a pretty good day for me. I had I think I had the under there at plus money in the Morales Brady fight. I think I had the under at plus money. That was a great bet. But yeah, Morales round 1. I was looking at Morales KO. Morales by KO was like plus 3 something. I couldn't believe it. We got Terry Wells. Let's go award show live. So this is just the recap, Terry, but the award show, the Stat Diggers award show, will be next Monday, 10:15 Eastern time. Be there. Me and Uncle Weezy going to be talking about the awards for 2025. We got 12 awards lined up for you guys. Going to get some audience interaction too. The audience are going to vote for some stuff as well, and it's going to be a very fun show. I cannot wait until for the award show next week with Uncle Weezy. Brady, what was the bet you made in 2025 that you were sure you were going to lose, but you ended up winning? That is a great question for us, because I have one on this list. And let's get into it. Let's see, which one was it? Okay. This was a bet that I thought was going to lose. I thought it was, I put a quarter unit on it. I thought it was going to lose, but ended up hitting. And it was Carlos Vera to win by submission plus 1,300 against Josias Musasa. And my thinking here, and first and foremost, I mean, Mousasi was like minus 1,000 in this fight. But my thinking here is like, if Carlos Ferreira is going to win this fight, I mean, there's no other way he wins it other than submission. That's his money line. His money line is the submission prop, and it was plus 1,300. And Mousasi's like Mousasi's horrible on the ground. Like he's a white belt, if that. I kind of think Mousasi is a fraud as well. But and I wasn't expecting Vera to club and sub him by any means. But I thought like if he would win, it would be by submission, and the submission prop was plus 1,300. So I sprinkled it, and it came through, and it came through in spectacular fashion. He rocked Mousasi with a head kick, I believe, and then choked him out there shortly after on the mat and hit a plus 1,300. That was another really good card for me that night. Hit a lot of good spots there, but that was the best bet on that card, and one of the best bets of the year. A plus 1,300 submission prop as a massive, massive underdog. I thought was pretty cool. Bad beats coming up next. You guessed it. You guessed it. Bad beats are coming up next. We're going to have fun with that. There we go. Yeah. Make sure you guys clear your schedules. Next Monday, award show with Uncle Weezy. It's going to be one of the best award shows you guys see this year. One of the best award shows you guys see. Mike Beltran was willing to let Elkins die in there to cash that over. It was disgusting. It was one of those things where like I made money on the fight, but it's like, holy crap, that was kind of hard to watch. Kind of like wincing at the fight. Like let's I don't want to see Darren Elkins in there ever again, to be honest. I think he should retire. Is Darren Elkins still on the roster? Let's see. Let's see if because if he is on the roster, I'm gonna fade the crap out of Elkins if he fights again. 41 years old. We haven't seen him since that Arosa fight. That was back in April. I wonder if we're going to see Darren Elkins back in there. I mean, they can't possibly put Elkins back in there, can they? I mean, it's inhumane to put Darren Elkins in the cage at this point. It's inhumane. All right. Next up, we got Alexa Thayanara to win by submission, plus 500 versus Molly McCann. And yeah, I was happy with that one. Molly McCann, she has improved her grappling a little bit. But at the end of the day, she still struggles on the mat. She's been finished on the mat multiple times, but she's been TKO'd. She's been submitted, I think, 3 times, maybe 4. Like she's been submitted a couple times. And Thayanara is a black belt. Thayanara is a good grappler, and Thayanara is actually a really good fighter. I think Thayanara is somebody to maybe look out for in the year of 2026. But yeah, she took down Molly Meatball McCann. And she choked her out pretty easily. Like it was no sweat. Took her down, took her back, and choked her out. And the reason I like that bet so much was because, Molly McCann. There was rumors that she was retiring, or she wouldn't fight again. And I think that was Molly McCann's last fight in the UFC. And like once you have one foot out the door type thing, we don't typically see fighters winning fights when they have one foot out the door, and Thayanara subbed her pretty easily there. I feel like you're donating plasma to your followers by having this kick-ass live stream. I don't know about that, but I appreciate that. Nothing made me laugh more than you talking about Elkins rolling his... I wonder if I still have that picture. It was great. Yeah, was that fight? So it was one of Elkins' fights. I'm taping the fight, and when I'm taping the fight and researching the fight, I typically go to the Instagrams and I check the socials. Let me see if I can pull it up on Instagram. And I go to Darren Elkins' Instagram, and I'll just bring it up. But he's talking about like he lists like a laundry list of injuries he had. And then in the picture, it was him in a wheelchair. Let me see if I can find this picture. It was the craziest thing ever. Unless he deleted it. I hope he didn't delete it. No, that's him on a jet ski. That's him with a surfboard. Where is this picture? I hope he didn't delete it. I can't find it. Did he delete that picture of him in a wheelchair? There it is. Okay. Here it is. Like, I couldn't believe it. He was like, well, I tore my meniscus, tore my MCL when I got the first takedown, and I fractured my fibula. What? What do you mean? That's horrible. Tearing your meniscus, and I'm not a doctor, I'm not a medical professional, but what do you mean tearing your MCL? Fracturing your fibula? No wonder he's in a wheelchair. And yeah, we were joking like he's gonna roll up to the cage in his next fight, and holy crap, there he is, Darren Elkins. It's kind of sad to see, man. It's kind of sad to see. Yeah, so I guess he got hurt, and this was the Jonathan Pierce fight. He got hurt in the Jonathan Pierce fight, all these injuries, and he still made it the distance. I mean, this guy's tough, dude. I mean, Darren Elkins is tough. And then he shows up in his next fight after coming out of a wheelchair against TJ Brown, and I believe cashes me like a round 3 prop, a round 2 or round 3 prop against TJ Brown. So I actually saw this picture and I actually bet on Darren Elkins to win the fight in round 3. I think it was like plus 1,400. That was, I think, last year. I bet on a man in a wheelchair. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. I had Chris Duncan and Iwu parlayed. I thought I'd lose both of them. Yeah, I mean, there were some sketchy moments in both of them, but they both came through. And I did see that. I saw Molly McCann just won a boxing match, and yeah, she's a good boxer. Yeah, he beat TJ Brown, and I cashed a nice round 3 prop on it too. It was phenomenal. Good sign. It's time to retire when you're hanging out in a wheelchair. Yeah, if you're hanging out at the beach in a wheelchair, it's probably time to hang him up. I don't want to see him back in there ever again. Brady, your funniest moments in 2025 was the Dana White's Contender Series live stream. I had a really funny moment on one of the live streams. I think it was I forget which fight it was where I almost fell out of the chair. I think I fell out of the chair. We got Mr. Ed, bit late here, but do your best bets factor in the units wagered or even beating line movement? Not necessarily. I just think kind of the best bets. And like I said, I had a ton. I had like 20 that I had to kind of condense down more and more. But yeah, I don't really factor beating any line movement. I don't care about that. Typically when you're beating line movement, you're losing. If anything, getting reverse CLV'd is where it's at apparently. But yeah, kind of just the best bets, Surprising there are people over 40 who tear their knee ligaments and don't even do all the physical stuff Elkins does. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, shout out to Darren Elkins. Carlos Vera might have had the cleanest club and sub in MMA history. It was clean, man. Head kicked him, jumped on the back, and that was that. That was awesome. CLV is overrated. I mean, it's good to have, in the long run. It's absolutely good to have, but there is such thing as a CLV curse. Let's call it what it is. The CLV curse is real. It's definitely real. All right. And then last best bet, and this was the first card of the year, I believe. Chris Curtis versus Roman Kopylov. Fight ends in round 3 at plus 900. And the reason I bet this was because let's look at Kopylov here. Kopylov fights do not finish in round 1 ever. Kopylov has 14 wins. I think he has maybe 1 first round knockout. When his fights are finishing, they're ending in round 2 or round 3, right? Against Carl Roberson, gets submitted in round 3. Against DiChirico, gets a knockout in round 3. Against Soriano, gets a knockout in round 2. Against Ibero, gets a knockout in round 2. Against Josh Fremd, gets a knockout in round 2. Against Chris Curtis, gets a knockout in round 3, and that's when I cashed this. Ends in round 3. I had round 2, round 3, and they had round 3 at plus 900 in a Roman Kopylov fight. And I think it had to do with, Chris Curtis, being very durable, but still. And big shout out to Mark Smith for cashing me that plus 900. Because if you guys remember, not only did it cash, but it cashed with 1 second left. Roman Kopylov landed a head kick, and Mark Smith stopped the fight. Didn't really need to really stop the fight, to be honest. But I thought that was a phenomenal bet. And just with the way it played out, the way it hit, I thought that was pretty cool to cash a plus 900 with 1 second left. So there you guys have it. Those are the best bets for 2025. I'd say the best bet was probably the Robertson KO. My favorite bet was definitely the Prochazka fight, just with how that played out. All right. And then we will go down to bad beats. I should have 10 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 bad beats. All right. Let's end this Q&A. Get a new one up here. All right. So let me know in the chat, guys. What is your biggest bad beat for 2025? Let me know in the chat what your biggest bad beat is. And, I didn't have as much bad beats this year as usual. Typically, in 2024, I could have made like a list of 50 bad beats. Just a ton of bad beats in 2024. And yeah, typically I have a lot of bad beats. This year, I kind of maybe even struggled to find 10 here. There was not a ton of, there was a lot less bad beats than usual this year, I thought. Pantoja, yeah, that was frustrating. I had Pantoja by sub, which obviously didn't come through, and then I did have the fight doesn't go to decision, which I should have went heavier on, but at least hit the fight doesn't go. But I would have liked to hit the Pantoja sub. We didn't get to see it play out, unfortunately. But yeah, bad beat. My worst beat was 100% putting money on Beneil versus BSD. Oh God, I was so confident as well for some reason, even though I knew he would get slept in MMA. And I forgot to add that to my best bets. I had Saint Denis to win by knockout at like plus 125, and then I also had the fight won't start round 3. So that was another good call for me. The BSD fight, the Tom Aspinall fight, that's a bad beat. Yeah, for me, I don't know. I'm actually glad that was a no contest because I had a bet on Aspinall to win in rounds 1, 2, or 3, and I was not liking what I was seeing at all. I was not liking what I was seeing. Oh God, yeah, that's a bad beat, man. That's the definition of a bad beat. Kwamba had some close chokes there. That is brutal. Plus 2,800 is crazy. That is sickening bad beat. But let's talk about some of my sickening bad beats. All right. And a lot of these were due to referee incompetency, but still, all in all, bad beat. All right. First one was due to referee incompetency. It should have been probably a no contest, right? I think we can all agree, the Matthews Magny fight should have been no contest, but I had Magny in a parlay, which again, parlays are cursed for me. And then I had Jake Matthews by sub at plus 360. This was like a 5-unit swing, maybe if not more. The ref stops the fight with 3 seconds left, says that Magny's out. Jake Matthews goes and celebrates. Jake Matthews has an adrenaline dump, and even talks about in an interview after the fight. A couple of days later, talks about how, I had a big adrenaline dump. I thought I won. I was going out there, I was celebrating, and Magny comes back in the 3rd round and submits Jake Matthews, in typical Neil Magny fashion. Gets beat badly in the first 2 rounds and comes back from behind and gets a 3rd round submission. Luckily, I was able to get it back in the last card of the year. Had the fight doesn't go to decision in the Magny fight, and he gets submitted in the 1st round. But yeah, I thought that was definitely a bad beat just with the way it played out. The fight literally gets called off. And then all of a sudden, oh, never mind. Let's restart the fight. You can't do that. You can't just restart. You can't stop a fight and restart it. That's not how this works. It should have been a no contest. It 1,000% should have been a no contest. And Matthews actually went out there and tried to fight this outcome and this decision, and it got turned down. It stands as a Neil Magny win, which is pretty wild to me. Yeah, another one where the fight gets stopped and then restarted. Not cool. Topuria over Charles O. I don't know if that was a bad beat. I was all over Topuria there by knockout, and I had a lot on Topuria there, and that was probably one of my best bets too. Topuria over Charles by KO. Got a feeling the Navajo Sterling inside the distance versus Erslan is on your list. It may be. We'll have to find out. All right. Next bad beat. and this is a bad beat, man. I mean, Hamdi Abdul-Wahab by knockout versus Chris Barnett. I mean, how? How do you not finish Chris Barnett? I mean, you watch the fight and it's like Chris Barnett actually almost finished himself on multiple occasions. I remember watching that fight and Chris Barnett falls down awkwardly on his leg and yells in agony at least 3 times. I thought he broke his leg like 3 times, Chris Barnett. And Hamdi went out there and proceeded to land like a million ground strikes with nothing behind. All he had to do was just put some ground strikes together with anything on him whatsoever, and the ref would have stopped the fight. I mean, Hamdi looked minus 1,000, but just somehow, some way, drug Chris Barnett the distance. Like, how does that happen? I mean, that should have been free money, and it's sad because I'll never get an opportunity to fade Chris Barnett again because Barnett got cut, and they even cut Hamdi Abdul-Wahab after this win. They cut both these. I mean, this fight was so bad that they cut both of these guys. I couldn't believe what I was watching. And again, it was on a Middle Eastern card. It was in the Middle East, and these Middle East cards are weird, and that was a weird fight. Like Barnett literally almost finished himself on multiple occasions. So yeah, they got cut. Good riddance. I mean, let's take a look. I mean, how many ground strikes? I think Hamdi might have even maybe set a record for ground strikes in the heavyweight division because holy crap. Hamdi landed 170 total strikes in that fight. That's a lot for a heavyweight fight. And you can't knock out Chris Barnett? I mean, Barnett was looking for the door. I mean, he was literally looking for the door. All you had to do was show him the door. Just show it to him. But he couldn't do that. And holy crap, the fight went the distance. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. I think Magny deserves the win here. It was purely a ref mistake. Yeah, but if it's a ref mistake, you know, it's typically a no contest. Remember the Keith Peterson, it was Ronnie Lawrence versus, was it Ronnie Lawrence, Dan Argueta? Keith Peterson thought he saw a tap. There was no tap. No contest, right? He didn't go out there and restart the fight like an idiot. But yeah, in this case, Magny, it was a bad call by the ref. And even like, I think it was Herzog in the Trey Ogden Nicholas Mota fight. I think it might have been Tyone or Herzog, but they thought they might have went out. He didn't go out, and it's a no contest. But why is this a no contest? Why is this not a no contest? The Magny Matthews fight. Any other time, it's a no contest. But yeah, it was crazy. Alvarez ITD. We might get to that. We'll see. Frevola versus Nelson. We may talk about that as well. We got Moyes in the building. What is up, Moyes? Ref incompetency and Nelson actively trying to carry that fight 15 minutes. Yeah, it was bad. The best part was Sweaty Hamdi smiling and celebrating in the last 10 seconds of the fight like he did something good. Yeah, I mean, he got cut, and he got cut for a very good reason. Taporia over Holloway for your best bet, Daniel. Yeah, that's a good bet. Knocked him out. I think he was the first person to knock out Holloway. Yep. We will get there. We will certainly get there. Tony Week, yeah, that's wild. He scored the fight 30-27 for Robert Valentin when Valentin was on the cage for 15 minutes. That was crazy. The rest will just make up rules as they go. And yeah, there, like I said, on this list of bad beats, we're going to talk about 4 different instances where there were some referee errors. Referee errors that really, really hurt me. The fight was erotic. I mean, there was some ass shown, but I didn't really want to see Chris Barnett's ass. That's for sure. I did not want to see that. Absolutely not. Ref should stop one-sided beatdowns like that. Moving every couple seconds isn't intelligently defending yourself. Yeah, I mean, it's not. But at the same time, like Hamdi, he was doing like these pitter-patter shots. It's like if he would have put like some emphasis on a couple of these shots, I mean, the fight would have been stopped. All right, next bad beat. Referee incompetency. Kevin Holland versus Mike Malott under 2.5 rounds, -130. So in hindsight, I would never bet this again because Mike Malott, you know, sometimes he shows up and he's very violent. You know, he used to have 100% finish rate, not anymore. And then sometimes he shows up and does nothing for 15 minutes. But at the same time, you know, you watch this fight, and in the first round, Kevin Holland hurts Mike Malott. He drops Mike Malott. And then Mike Malott kicked Kevin Holland in the balls, right? And I'm watching this fight, and Dan Miragliotta is reffing the fight, and Kevin Holland, he literally can't fight anymore. Dan Miragliotta keeps asking Kevin Holland, he's like, Kevin, can you fight? Can you fight? Are you good to go? Are you ready? You have 5 minutes. Are you ready to fight? And Kevin Holland doesn't answer him. He never says, yes, I'm ready. Kevin Holland never at one point says, yes, I'm ready to fight. I can fight. And then the clock hits 5 minutes, and Dan's like, go, we're restarting the fight. And they even bring the doctor in. They bring the doctor in, and the doctor checks out Kevin Holland. And the doctor goes up to Dan Miragliotta's punk ass and says, he can't fight. He can't defend himself. And what does Dan Miragliotta do? He makes him fight. He forces Kevin Holland to fight. Kevin Holland never says that he can fight, never says that he wants to continue, and even against the doctor's discretion, makes Kevin Holland fight. It was the weirdest thing ever. It's almost like Dan Miragliotta had to go out there and cash an over 2.5 ticket, a second one that night, if you will. And yeah, should have been a no contest, because in the next 10 minutes, what happened? Kevin Holland did nothing. He couldn't do anything. He couldn't fight. He was a wounded animal out there. And what did Mike Malott do? He just stared at him. He just kicked him, here and there, and ultimately won a horrible. It was a horrible performance from Mike Malott, but it was also a fight that should have been a no contest due to Mike Malott kicking Kevin Holland in the nutsack. So yeah, I thought that was a bad beat. I thought the Matthews fight should have been a no contest due to referee error. I thought the Kevin Holland Mike Malott fight should have been a no contest due to Mike Malott, kicking Kevin Holland in the balls and Holland not being able to continue, but yet the fight continued for some reason, and the fight ends up going the distance with really zero sweat whatsoever. It was absolutely insane. Holland and Miragliotta is too much autism in one cage. Something stupid was bound to happen. Yeah, and something stupid did happen. So that's why I'm done with Holland fights, man. I'm done with Kevin Holland. He's untrustworthy. You can't trust this guy, and you can't trust Dan Miragliotta either. Congratulations, Dan Miragliotta. You cashed your over 2.5 rounds in the Kevin Holland Mike Malott fight. The fight shouldn't have continued. Kevin Holland never said he could continue, and even the doctor said, "Hey, he can't defend himself." But you start the fight anyway. Just really bizarre stuff from Dan Miragliotta. All right, the next bad beat. In this one almost ended me. This one almost ended me, not only as a gambler, not only as a content creator. This fight almost ended my life. This fight almost ended my life. Because like I said, I went through I had a 6-week losing streak. End of the summer, early fall. It was my worst losing streak since 2021. And I needed to start stacking up some wins together. I needed to stack these wins, and I started to stack some wins. I started to stack some wins together. I started to gain a lot of momentum. The reads were starting to be a lot better and very good after this 6-event losing streak. And this was a very important card for me. I needed to do good on this card, and I needed to do well. And I had the under 2.5 rounds in the Kyle Nelson Matt Frevola fight at -140. And I even doubled down on it. I like this bet so much, at -140. I doubled down on it, put another unit or so on it. So I had a big bet on Kyle Nelson, Matt Frevola to finish under 2.5 rounds. And I'm watching the fight, and with 20 seconds left, Kyle Nelson hurts Matt Frevola very bad. He hurts him. He swarms him. He gets on top, and he's bashing Frevola's head through the canvas. I thought Frevola's head was about to go through the canvas a couple points in that fight. Boom, boom, boom. And it's like, okay, Dan Miragliotta, let's stop the fight. Boom, 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 boom. All right, he's not defending himself. He's out cold, Dan. Stop the fight. Boom, 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 boom. Dan, stop the fight. And then finally, Dan Miragliotta stops the fight with a few seconds. I think it was maybe 4 seconds left in the first round. 3 or 4 seconds left in the first round. Dan Miragliotta stops the fight. I jump up in excitement. I celebrate. That made my night. Sealed a winning card for that night with that under. Sealed a winning card, sealed a winning event. And I had a lot. I had maybe 2.5, 3 units on that bet. I was very excited. I get up, I run to the other room, I talk to the wife, I say, hey, I just cashed a nice bet. Should be a winning night. Very, very happy with how it played out. And she was like, cool. And I was like, yeah, it was pretty cool. And then I walk back to the living room where I'm watching the fight, and I go to grab my phone because I want to maybe make a tweet, maybe say, oh wow, Kyle Nelson just piped Matt Frevola on site, something like that. So I go to grab my phone to make a tweet, and I hear like, what are they doing? They're restarting this fight. I'm like, no. I'm like, no. Like it felt like a fever dream. It felt like a nightmare, because remember, prior to that, Jake Matthews, the fight gets stopped and they continue it. Prior to that, Joao Alvarez, the fight gets stopped and they continue it. The last 2 weeks. And I'm like, no. 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 This can't be happening. This cannot possibly be happening to me 3 weeks in a row. You got to be kidding me. So I sit there. The round 2 plays out. It gets to round 3, and this is what really did it. In round 3, Kyle Nelson hurts Matt Frevola very badly. Frevola was like a punch or two away from the fight getting stopped. The fight was very close to being stopped. He was very close to being out. And what does Kyle Nelson do? He clinches up with a very hurt Matt Frevola. And I have a mental breakdown. I start saying some of the most vulgar words you can possibly think of, just very vulgar language. Surprised that the neighbors didn't call the cops with some of the vulgar language I was using towards this fight, because I'm like, this can't possibly be happening. And then I leave the house. I leave the house with no shoes, no socks. I walk out of the house and I start walking, and I keep walking. I just keep on walking. I probably walk for like an hour and a half, 2 hours, just walking. Just complete mental breakdown. People were outside looking at me like I'm some weirdo. And I remember there was this dad and his son were outside, hanging out. And the dad's like, come on, son, let's go inside. Just walking around with no socks on, no shoes on. And somehow I make it back to the house, and I don't watch the rest of the card. I couldn't possibly believe that happened to me. And I had a nasty cut on my foot too. I'm surprised I didn't get like some horrible disease, walking around in the streets with no shoes, no socks. Big cut on I'm surprised I didn't get some disease. I'm surprised I'm still standing here today. But yeah, that was brutal. Absolutely brutal. It makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense. How that fight was stopped and then restarted, it just makes no sense to me. And I'm actually kind of surprised they're still letting Dan Miragliotta out there to this day. So yeah, that was the fight that almost ruined me. Almost ruined me. That Kyle Nelson Matt Frevola fight. We talk about bad beats. I think that has to be the worst bad beat of all time because it hit. The bet hit. The bet cashed. Yet it doesn't get paid out. Just absolutely disgusting bad beat that almost took my life away. Great stoppage by Dan. Shame it restarted out. It was a great stoppage. It's like, okay, you probably should stop the fight. Oh, he stopped the fight. There you go, Dan. Good stoppage. And then, yeah, it was. Yeah, that's the thing. It was late. It was late. He was getting his head bashed through the canvas. It's horrible. And yeah, this is what really just pissed me off, man. I mean, at one point late, Nelson had Frevola's back and had a shot at a choke, but let it go and totally abandoned the dominant position. Don't think I've ever seen it. Yeah. Let him off the hook. Could have knocked him out. Could have choked him. Let him off the hook. I was not singing Zombie. At least you got your steps. I already had them in, so I got like double the steps. Yeah, somehow I didn't get a serious disease or illness. Don't walk around with no socks and shoes on. That's not good. That's not good. Had Lauren Murphy plus 450 and instant distance plus 1400 in submission plus 3500 against Mora Oh, yeah, Lauren Murphy. She was so close to getting it round 3 with the Gilly. Yeah, dude, she was. Holy crap, she was. I thought she had it too. She had some massive priced props for that fight. That is definitely a bad beat. Santos Marshall worth the mention. Yeah, I thought it was probably the worst decision of the year. Absolutely. I had the Francis Marshall plus 3.5, so was able to hit that, but I thought it was a horrible, terrible decision. I also had Melky by sub or decision, and he KO'd the French guy in 20 seconds. Yikes, yeah. Yeah, I was not expecting him to knock out Charrier the way he did. I picked him to win, but I was not expecting that. All right, moving on to the next bad beat of the year. Joel Alvarez wins in rounds 1 or rounds 2 at -125 versus Vicente Luque. Yeah, so this was another weird one where you're watching the fight in the first round, and Alvarez lands a nice shot to the face of Luque, right to the eye, and it hurts Luque really bad, and the ref ultimately stops the fight. The ref waves off the fight in the Alvarez Luque first round. He waves it off, and he says potential eye poke, and then they go to the replay assist, and they replay it, and they're like, oh, it was a punch, right? It wasn't an eye poke, it was a punch. And then for some reason, instead of the fight being over, mind you, he already waved off the fight and stopped the fight. And for some reason, they restarted the fight. Like, why? I mean, it was a legal blow. It was a punch to the eye. You stopped the fight. It wasn't an eye poke. Why are we restarting this fight? What are we doing? Why is this happening? And then to make matters worse, Joao Alvarez gets on top of Luque in the second round and lands 150 unanswered strikes. Luque's not intelligently defending himself. Luque's cover. Remember the Buckley Luque fight? It looked like that. Luque's covering up. Luque quit, and Alvarez just landing elbows, punches, anything on top. And the ref's not even close to stopping the fight. It was like a 10-7 round almost. It's like Luque was doing nothing. Absolutely nothing. So somehow, some way, Alvarez to win in rounds 1 or rounds 2 does not hit yet. He knocked out Luque in round 1, and he TKO'd him in round 2. And this is not hit due to referee incompetency. So right off the bat, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bad beats, 4 of them due to referee error. Just absolutely insane. I mean, the amount of referee errors this year were just uncalled for, and it was bad. It was a bad year for refereeing. I was referring to, somehow I made it back home. Luckily, I made it back home. I was in Rio watching this one live, and I was so confused. I watched the fight back, and the ass whooping was much worse when you can see all the details. Yeah, it was a one-sided fight. Luque straight up quit. I mean, covering up and laying on your back is just not intelligently defending yourself and eating, 150 unanswered punches. Luque he did the Anthony Smith. He did exactly that. He just shelled up, did that Anthony Smith guard. And the ref didn't stop the fight. I couldn't believe it. That was a crazy fight it was a horrible performance by the referee. Bad year or suspicious year. I mean, once the Bulgarian situation happened, I don't know if you guys noticed, but once that Bulgarian situation happened, first of all, I went on an incredible run after that. I won the next 2 months, but there was no more referee incompetency. Referees were doing their jobs. Fighters were doing their jobs. So we got to give a big shout out to Isaac Dalgarian for saving MMA, saving the UFC. Because after that Bulgarian situation, there has been no shenanigans. From there on out, there was no shenanigans the rest of the year. And I hate shenanigans. I hate it. I don't like it. So shout out to Isaac Dalgarian for throwing the fight. At a certain point, I realized the ref played the over, so I was just praying his corner stopped it. And the corner probably should have stopped it after round 2. And then it got to round 3, and it was just a weird situation where Alvarez just kind of laid on him for the last 5 minutes. Yeah, exactly. Almost like they couldn't rob you anymore. UFC 300 was a card to remember. That was a phenomenal card. Absolutely. The Holloway Gaethje knockout. Yeah, I'll never forget that UFC 300 card. All right, let's keep moving on. And yeah, somebody brought it up a little bit earlier. This was brutal. This was absolutely brutal. So I had, not only did I have Navajo Sterling to win by knockout in a parlay, and guess what? All the other legs hit. It would have been like a 5-unit hit had Sterling won by knockout. On top of that, I had Sterling to win by knockout in rounds 2 or rounds 3 at plus 280 for like 1.25 units. I mean, this was probably the biggest swing of the year for me. It was like well over like a 10-unit swing, maybe an 11, 12-unit swing here. Had Sterling knocked out Ivan Erzlan. If you guys remember that fight, Sterling does knock him out. He does knock out Erzlan in the 3rd round. And he's putting it on Erzlan, and he lands a big shot right. And Erzlan falls face first into the canvas, right? That's getting stopped 9 times out of 10. Like when fighters fall face first, head first, nose dive into the canvas, referees are stopping that fight every single time. You know, it's not often where you see somebody dive head first in the canvas and then the fight continues. But that was one of those instances I couldn't believe my eyes. Brutal swing. It should have hit. Somehow it didn't hit. It sucked. It absolutely sucked. I was very, very upset at that one because it was a phenomenal read. He put it on Erzlan. He knocked him out, but the ref just refused to stop it. And he got like a 10-8 in round 3. So that absolutely sucked. Referee shenanigans, debatably in the McKinney Duncan, too many punches landed. Yeah, that I briefly remember that one. I was there live. But yeah, that was crazy. You guys think the Bleda fight could have been a Dulgarian situation? Maybe it looked very sus. Well, it looked like she showed up like either injured or unprepared, or she gassed out in a minute, and she got hurt as well. I think she hurt her knee again. I mean, I don't think we'll see Bleda in there either ever again or for another couple of years. But I don't know. I think it was like more of like an injury type situation with Bleda. When any part of your face touches the canvas due to a strike, it should be called, like it dove headfirst into the canvas. I mean, that's getting stopped every single time. Like, just like it was the Derek Lewis Pavlovich fight. Pavlovich hurt Derek Lewis. Derek Lewis landed face first, and he wasn't out, but I mean, Dan Miragliotta stopped that fight instantly. And there's been a lot of instances when fighters fall face first in the canvas, it's not a good visual to the referees, and that's getting stopped more times than not. Had a 4-leg parlay at plus 9,000 odds. The last leg was RDR to get a sub over Whitaker, and he won by decision. I was not expecting RDR to win a decision with his terrible cardio. Absolutely not. That's brutal. That's brutal. All right, move on. Got a couple more here. So this was kind of a little bit of a referee error. So I don't think this is talked about a lot, but in the Joshua Van Ray Saruya fight, I had Joshua Van to win by KO in rounds 2 or rounds 3 versus Ray Saruya. I don't have the odds. I forget what the odds were. I don't know. Let's say around the plus 400 range for that. I don't know what they were exactly. But in the 3rd round, Joshua Van lands a strike to the body of Ray Saruya, hurts Ray Saruya very, very badly, and Joshua Van starts to swarm him and try to get the finish, but Herzog stops the fight, and he thinks it's a low blow, right? He thinks it's a low blow. It is not a low blow. The fight continues and ends up going the distance. But if Herzog would have, called that a clean strike, I mean, Joshua Van knocks out Ray Saruya in the 3rd round, and I cash anywhere from like a plus 400, KO 2-3 prop on Joshua Van because he hurt Ray Saruya very badly to the body there. But Herzog thought it was a groin strike. So yeah, that one sucked. Another bad beat there. Another bad call by Jason Herzog, who had a ton of bad calls in the year of 2025. I couldn't cash out because with MGM, you can't take action on a bet that was made in another state that the one you're currently in. Yeah, that makes sense. I know they do that sometimes. All right. Next up, we got Julian Marquez to win by knockout, plus 475 versus Cody Brundage. This was another referee error. Like, Marquez is putting it on Brundage, Brundage is very hurt against the cage. Marquez is putting it on him, about to knock him out, and Mark Smith stops the fight to give Brundage his mouthpiece. What are you doing, Mark Smith? I think it was Mark Smith. One of the refs stops the fight in this, like the fight was about to finish. The ref stops the fight. It lets Brundage recover, give him his mouthpiece. When Marquez was about to knock him out, it was ridiculous. And Brundage ends up knocking out Marquez, and that costed Marquez his job. Marquez got cut after that, and now Marquez is doing like TikToks. So, yeah, plus 475 was a massive number. And it was close. It was very close to hitting. But again, the referee stopped the fight. You don't stop the fight when there's a finishing sequence about to happen. You don't stop the fight to give somebody their mouthpiece. I mean, it's not a thing. It's another referee error on that one. What's up with all these referee errors in the year of 2025? Let's see who was reffing that fight. I want to say it was Mark Smith, but maybe it was Murgliata. Let's take a look. It was Mark Smith. Which Mark Smith's typically like decent. Typically he's not really, like, when I think of refs that have screwed me over this year, typically it's been Herzog. But I mean, that, I don't know. I disagree with that. You don't stop the fight to give somebody their mouthpiece and let him recover. I mean, it's just stupid and dumb. Yeah, I think Marquez's career was already kind of coming to an end, but yeah, he did. That was Marquez's fourth knockout loss in a row. Got knocked out by Zach Reese in 20 seconds. Got knocked out by Marc-Andre Barrios. Got knocked out by Gregory Rodriguez. And it sucks because Marquez was a fun fighter, man. Anytime Marquez would fight, it would be a scrap. It'd be a fun fight. It'd be a very fun fight. The Cuban Missile Crisis doing the TikToks. Yeah, I see him on TikTok live like every day. I don't know what he's talking. I haven't really checked in, but he's on that TikTok live. I thought Mark Smith was a good ref, but after the Moreno-Tyra fight, I no longer hold that opinion. Yeah, I didn't have any money on that fight. I should have bet Tyra. I didn't. But that was a bad stoppage. That was a weird... I get he was like eating a lot of shots, but I mean, geez. That was bad. Ever since he fumbled Miley Cyrus, it kind of was like a downward spiral from Marquez. I think he beat Alvey, and after he beat Alvey, he called out Miley Cyrus, and then he went like 0-4. So yeah, that stinks. I was a big fan of Marquez. Bellato. Oh, for the Brundage fight? No. I don't know. All right, two more. Oh, Bellato Craig had to get someone bad despite the no contest. Yeah, it got me. I mean, I got my money back, but I had the under 1.5 rounds. So I guess you can call it a bad beat, but at least I got my money back. Yeah, that's what Miley Cyrus will do to you. That's what she'll do to you. All right, couple more, guys. So I have actually two for one here. Vince Morales wins in rounds 2 and rounds 3 versus Elijah Smith, plus 1,500 for round 2, plus 2,200 for round 3. And remember, in this fight, Morales had 2 fully locked in chokes in round 2. He had like a Peruvian necktie in round 2, and then he had either like a Darce or an Anaconda fully locked in round 2, super deep. And I don't know how Elijah Smith got out of it, but that was so close to hitting the round 2 for Morales. And then in round 3, he has another fully locked in choke with like 10 seconds left. If there was maybe 5 to 10 more seconds left, that plus 2,200 would have came through. So another bad beat would have been an incredible cash there on these Vince Morales late props. Good bets that were very, very close on coming. Both of them. Round 2 especially had a very deep choke locked in round 2. Let's see. I think they officially credited him with maybe 2 submission attempts, but he definitely had 3 submission attempts. Yeah, they gave him 3 submission attempts there for Vince Morales. Very, very close at those odds. Very close. Yeah, man, fully locked in. Fully locked in. I was like, come on, come on. At least I didn't lose this bet due to referee error. Because holy crap. Referee error, referee error, referee error, referee error, referee error, referee error, referee error. I think 8 of these 10 bad beats are due to referee error. That's insane. That's ridiculous. That's horrible. But yeah, at least this one wasn't due to referee. Like the referee didn't screw me here. But it was close on multiple different occasions. All right. And then we'll talk about one last bad beat. And this one was, I think, one of the first cards of the year, maybe the first card, maybe the second card. It was in January of 2025. And yeah, Ponzinibbio Harris under 2.5 rounds of plus 110, which is a credible line there, but it didn't hit. And it didn't hit because in the third round, Ponzinibbio hurts Harris in that third round, and he goes on to like beating the brakes off of him for like 2.5 minutes. And then the over 2.5 hits. And then the fight gets stopped. I mean, he had Harris wobbling across the cage for at least a minute and a half in that third round. So, yeah, that wasn't really referee error, but I needed Ponzi to go just a little bit sooner. But I think that under missed by like maybe 15 to 30 seconds. That under just missed. So another bad beat there for that one. At a certain point, it becomes too many coincidences to be a coincidence. Yeah, you're telling me. But like I said, hopefully the Dolgarian situation kind of helps things going forward, and I think it will, because since then there hasn't been, a ton of shenanigans. All right, guys, there we have it. That is the 2025 betting recap. Went about 2 hours. Had a lot to talk about. Had to talk about 10 of my worst bets. Had to talk about 10 of my best bets, and then had to talk about 10 of my bad beats. Gave some good stories along the way about the time that I almost lost my mind due to Dan Miragliotta. Dan Miragliotta, get some help, please. But yeah, thank you all for hanging out and joining. Whether you're watching live or on the replay, appreciate all you guys. If you guys could do me a favor, like the video, subscribe to the channel, be on the lookout for more content. Planning on getting at least 2 videos out this week. I know Christmas is coming up, Christmas Eve, but planning on getting a couple videos out this week. And then next week is the big show, the main event. I mean, the 2025 award show with Uncle Weezy. Be there next week, 10:15 Eastern time. I can't wait for it. Everything's ready to go. The awards are ready to be given. And yeah, we'll see you guys then. So guys, best of luck with everything going forward. Enjoy the holidays with your family, your friends, and we will talk to you guys in the very near future. We'll see you later. Peace.